annual sponsors, Toomey Latham, Shea, Kelly, and Dubin and Quintero, as well as Louis Joes of Bailey's law firm, and Covant Energy and Gershow Recycling. They've all been very helpful through the year, and I wanted to give them credit for what they do. And the IBEW has been a real partner in the function of utilities, and they've been a very good partner in the production of the needs that we have. So that I wanted to recognize that. But let's go on. Keith, you have something of a presentation?
Yeah, I just wanted to give a high level overview of what's been going on related to COVID. I don't know if you guys heard, but John Bruckner was, he's tied up right now. The company's going through some structural change, so I'm going to kind of pinch hit for him. But I wanted to talk about some of the stuff related to COVID. 2 weeks ago, John received the Medal of Honor from the LIA for some of the work at National Grid during the COVID over the last year. And I just wanted to just give some highlights. Number one, we had 8,000 employees, shift from working in the office to home. And then in our operations center, our control centers, whether they be gas or electric, we had men and women that were sequestered for up to 8 weeks, where they lived on the property, lived in almost like a military operation. They had food trucks and they lived in cots, and they worked around the clock to safely operate the gas and gas network and also the electric network in our power plants. And then besides that, we had our field operations employees that haven't stopped, since day one. They've been, working around the clock to provide natural gas to our customers across Long Island. The other thing I wanted to cover as well is the corporate giving. We had over $1 million of donations that came in to help our most vulnerable customers. And one of the biggest things on Long Island, we were able to fund over 30 food pantries. We were able to get PPE and medical supplies for Suffolk County Police Department, local fire departments. We funded 5 hospitals. We were able to bring food for our frontline healthcare workers. And then, Island Harvest, United Way, Hope House Ministries, Suffolk Community College, just to name a few of the local contributions. But the money really had an impact on some of our customers and our advocates working with some of our most vulnerable customers. We also we froze all gas shutoffs. So in other words, if you couldn't pay your gas bill, whether you were residential or a commercial customer, everybody had service, and that continued. So those are some of the initiatives that we were working on. We called it Operation National Grid Cares. And, I'm going on 32 years in the company. I've never seen anything quite like this. Just last week, we were out in Riverhead, and we were handing out turkeys and meals to about 150 plus more of our vulnerable customers. So that's some of the community stuff we were doing. The other stuff, we're in the middle of a rate case with the Public Service Commission, but I'm not at liberty to discuss that right now because we're still in negotiations. Ernie, I think I talked to you about a month ago, and I apologize for the, but I think, I don't really, I can't really report out on that because that would not be, it wouldn't, at this time, it just would impede negotiations. I wanted to give an update. I don't have an update at the time. Still in negotiations.
I had some real questions about the future of the gas industry. I had Bob Cattell on a few months ago, and he was promoting the pipeline, and I said, if we're going to phase out fossil fuels, maybe we should have our utilities concentrating on not so much as a single product, but as a service, an alternate service, And I'll give you an example of what I'm talking about. I met with the presidents of the airlines 10 years ago, and I talked to them about the maglev train. Why not get behind that? You're in the transportation business, not the airplane business. And I think we're the same position in the utility business. You're providing services that we definitely need, but maybe there's a better way to get there. Have you any thoughts on that, Keith?
Yeah, my thought is this, right? I'm going to be impartial, right? Because I'm a natural gas guy. My whole life has been most of my life was running control centers and working in operations and working with gas and pipelines. And of course, I'm going to be a little impartial, but as far as the NESE project, that project is dead. Okay. I mean, we've done, I got to remind everybody, and I can't speak on Williams' behalf, but a lot of people thought this was a National Grid project. This project was a Williams Company project that served the National Grid service territory. And from a, yes,
this is the one that, I'm sorry, Keith, but this is the one that goes under the harbor. Is that the
correct?
One? Okay.
Right. So there's a line that comes into Brooklyn comes into Flatbush, Brooklyn. The purpose of this was to connect into that existing line and bring another 400 million decatherms into the transmission system, which then would have been distributed throughout Brooklyn and Queens and Long Island. Without getting into politics, the project was about a 3-year project. In the end, they couldn't get the environmental permits for this, so it became a state issue. The state of New Jersey and the state of New York had to issue an environmental permit to have this happen. Both of those permits were denied. So, we look at it as a bridge fuel, as we transition into this clean energy future. But now that being said, now that project has been denied, we have to realize that we have to move forward. And I want to touch base on just a couple of things of what we're doing in light of that. So we have a demand response program where we're incentivizing some of our biggest users to go off gas during the coldest days of the year. That's one of the things we're doing.
How do you do that without sacrificing their ability to produce without the gas?
So that's a good question. So the way we do it is, let's say you're a factory in Brooklyn and you make wigs, right? And from 5 o'clock in the morning till 10 o'clock in the morning, for those 10 coldest days of the year, you sign an agreement that you're not going to burn gas and take that system load off during the peak load. And then at the end of the season, we incentivize you with a check. So if your operation, if you're making wigs and you could wait to make those wigs at 10 o'clock in the morning on those coldest days and maybe work till 10 o'clock at night. So it's companies that have that flexibility. And what we do is we reduce the gas pull on the system on those coldest days. The other thing is we have 3 sites on Long Island where we're injecting CNG into the transmissions. And this is done safely by union operators. And it's on the coldest days of the year, we'll be injecting the CNG into the natural gas system to get through these peak loads. And then the other big piece of this is the energy efficiency program that our customer team has been working with our commercial customers to really drive change and take more load off the system during the cold days. That's how we're dealing with it now. And then what we're going to do is we're going to work. We have a great relationship with the state. We're going to continue to work with the state. And these green, clean energy policies are going to drive the rate case. And without getting into details, it's going to drive us into a green, renewable future. And that's where we're headed.
What does that mean in terms of the cost of the product? Does that mean it has to go up?
Depending on, I can't discuss the rate case hasn't been settled yet. So if it was settled, I'd be able to give you the rates and lay that out.
No, I'm not asking for the rates. I'm wondering the impact, the general impact. Maybe you can't answer that either, but if you can't, just say so. We'll be okay.
Yeah, I mean, I can't forecast on that. What I will tell you is the company is definitely transitioning, and let's face it, policy and government and state policy will mandate utilities and drive everything, futuristic hydro blending. We have a great relationship with Stony Brook. We're actually looking at doing hydro blending in our transmission system. That's what green, clean energy, that's the train we're on. It's going to take us time to get there. So, we have to do all these other things to mitigate and get through these coldest days of winter.
If there's anything that corporate America is really good at, it's forecasting where they're going to be in 5 or 10 years. I think they do a good job on that. Where do you see the company in 10 years?
I see the company, if you look, we have a thing called National Grid Ventures, and there's 2 parts of National Grid Ventures. One of them is looking, to your point, looking 10 years out, almost like what's the next Google, when's the next bubble going to burst? And we've invested, a lot of money into that project. And then the other part is National Grid Ventures, which is the unregulated end of the business, which is working, clean energy, wind, solar. We invested in Geronimo, which is one of the biggest solar producers in the country. that's where the company's heading.
Yeah, the Geronimo project is one of the things I wanted to talk to John about. I think that's a little bit different from your usual mix of revenue creation. Um, do you know how well that's going?
I'd say it's going outstanding. Some of the people that I talk to on the unregulated side, I don't have all the figures in front of me, but the business is booming. That's the future of energy is wind and solar. And let's face it, in Long Island, we don't have the opportunity in Long Island to, because of real estate and the price of real estate in Long Island and New York City, it's not something that we would be able to do. However, we have our service territories in Albany, Syracuse, and Buffalo. So right now, that subsidiary, we're working on these large farms upstate where we're actually coming in and building gigantic solar farms that produce energy and take electric off the grid. And that's exciting stuff.
One of the big items I think in green energy is wind production. I don't know how you would mix with that. That would be something that, I mean, it's still an energy producing company, so maybe you could rationalize putting the investment in there. I wrote an essay a while back about a deep water port off Long Island, the North Shore, where we could create the components of wind energy and disperse it along the eastern seaboard, and that would be a brand new, huge industry. Is anybody thinking in terms like that?
Yes, I think the thing about National Grid Ventures that it's an unregulated subsidiary of the company, and unlike the regulated end of the business, it has the ability to look at all of these technologies. To your point, they're looking 10 years down the road, and they're saying, where is the future of energy? The future of energy is it's all clean technologies, and that's you're gonna see over the next year. Over the next 10 years, you're gonna see a lot of things that this isn't the way we do business anymore. And I almost equate it to like Blockbuster. Remember years ago in Blockbuster, you go on a Friday night and take out a movie and get some candy and a soda or a beer, and you'd watch a movie, and then all of a sudden Netflix came and Blockbuster was out of business. This is no different. You have to adapt and overcome right now. Clean energy it's here. We have to forecast and change the way we do business from a traditional wires and pipe company to a clean energy company. And,
yeah,
and I think working with the state, that policy will drive that.
Yeah, I understand the buggy whip industry is not doing very well. We've come a long way.
Ernie and Keith, we have some questions from the attendees. Billy Roberti has, she's muted again. There you go. She's unmuted and ready to ask a question.
I'd like to give a little background. First of all, I'm from Huntington. I'm a member of the towns of Huntington's Advisory Committee on Energy Efficiency, Renewables, and Sustainability. I'm a founding member of the New York Geothermal Energy Organization and a member of the Mothers Out Front state leadership team. I'll tell you a little bit about Mothers Out Front. We're a national organization advocating for a livable climate for kids today and future generations. We are mothers and other caretakers who are worried about the energy decisions we make as a society as they affect our health and contribute to climate change. So I would like to ask, first of all, how is National Grid complying with the Climate Leadership and Community Protection Act? Because we're not seeing it.
So we have a policy team that works in Metro Tech, and every like I said, every state policy that is coming out, we have a team that is working to drive all of this change. If you looked at where we were 10 years ago from where we are today, all the investment and all the money that we're investing is in wind, solar, battery storage, upstate electric vehicles, electric charging stations. We actually give our employees $5,000. They buy an electric vehicle. So we are driving the change. We're out there front too. We're a leader in this. We're working with other utilities, and I would say we're doing everything we can. The policy is already dictated where we're heading.
Well, why are you expanding the capacity of the Iroquois pipeline, and why are you still continuing to expand your customer base and extend mains and service to homes when we should be cutting back? Why are you anticipating more demand for gas when we will be ending the use of gas in 10 or 15 years or sooner. It seems
So
contradictory. And
it's a good,
you seem to be staying with the gas model rather than moving to, say, a district geothermal system like you did a demonstration project in Riverhead. That
and
seems to be the way of the future, and that's the way to make money.
you have an excellent questions and excellent points. Let me try to address them. First of all, the Iroquois pipeline, that's not, I don't work for the Iroquois pipeline, so that project's in Connecticut. And that's an expansion project on a compressor station. So I'm not at liberty to discuss that. That's not National Grid, that's Iroquois. Again, we would just be one of the customers receiving the benefit in the event that went through.
But if there weren't a
Number two,
customer, then they wouldn't be doing that. You're the customer. You're driving demand.
Well, okay, so let me finish answering the question. So right now we have 1.9 million gas customers. You can't just turn off the switch and say, okay, when we sign up a gas customer, that's a lifetime commitment, and we have 1.9 existing million customers. And the other question, when you talk about geothermal,
Well, one moment. Let me address that, because I'm not saying
finish.
cutting off gas to people. I'm saying to stop getting people off heating oil and onto gas when they're just going to be needing to get off gas in 5 or 10 or 15 years.
Billy,
I'm
let
talking
me
about
ask you a
expansion.
question. Billy, let me ask you a question.
Sure.
I know where you're going, and I actually have an agreement with you. However, but what about the oil? Oil is terrible. It's worse than gas.
Maybe with its emissions, but not with the methane they put out. No one is considering the methane that goes into the air that has a global warming potential of 86 times carbon dioxide. Yes, we need to get off heating oil, but not to go to a bridge to nowhere. Go to heating oil to a heat pump, which has 0 emissions except at the power source. That's what I'm suggesting.
So let me answer the geothermal. Geothermal, we did a project out in Riverhead with a 55 and older community, and it was a home run. Right, the issue with geothermal is making it scalable, and I think working with the rate case, and when we get, and I don't know those figures yet, that's how you drive that geothermal change. Right now, I'll use my son as an example. He's 26 years old. If he gets married next year and he bought a house in Deer Park, it cost him $2,000 to get gas. It cost him $45,000 to get the geothermal system. And at some point, that's going to be scalable. That's going to be scalable, and when it's scalable down to where, as we progress, and that gets scalable, I agree with you. I think geothermal is the way to go. It's just at this point, it's based on price right now.
When we're talking about district, and there's experts that can advise you on how to do this quickly, easily, and cheaply. You just have to ask me to introduce you, and I will be glad to do that. They know how to do it. They're doing it right now.
Billy, do me a favor and email me. I wanted to have more conversation with you. Email me at ernie@limba.net.
I will do that, Ernie. Thank you.
Okay.
We have another question that came through the chat, Keith. What lessons are being learned? And I'm a software engineer, so I didn't ask the question, but I'm interested in it. What has been learned in terms of the development of effective software systems for crisis management?
What is that referring to, though?
Well, I think it's referring to recent storm response, where it was really the communication systems that broke down and left consumers feeling less than, and not necessarily from National Grid, but from the energy companies that serve us here on Long Island.
So that issue was a utility that I don't work for, so I can't comment on it.
So, well, then how about National Grid software response system, and how robust and valuable is it?
Well, remember, National Grid is gas only downstate, right. So it's a different scenario. When you lose, it's not like I can't speak about the other utility, but with gas, it's a little bit more of a tedious process when you do service. However, we did create a new technology where customers get robocalled. So if there's an outage with 25 houses or more, now we have a system where they map out the area. Let's say it's a block, and they map it out, and they send out a robocall to the customer saying there was a gas outage, and the estimated time is 6 hours by the time the repair is done. That's some of the technology that we've used, but it's a lot. I really can't. I can't discuss other utilities and
Yeah, as you're speaking, I'm realizing that unlike electric, which is so much more fragile when it comes to storm damage, no one ever thinks of their gas going out from a
Yeah.
hurricane.
What I also would add too, just to that, is we do have a storm hardening program where we invested a lot of money on the whole South Shore of Long Island and low-lying areas across, where we have automatic remote shut-off valves, where in the event of a hurricane ever came in again, the operators in the control room can shut those valves and isolate blocks safely, so the men and women in the field don't have to go out there in a dangerous situation. That's some of the stuff that we've invested in. It's called the storm hardening program.
Mhm.
And then the robocalls is another way, just to communicate. We also have a community van that goes out on location and goes door to door and talks to the customers during outages to give them anything they need. But that's all I can speak on National Grid's behalf. I can't speak on the others.
Okay.
Peter, did you have a question?
No, I had a comment on the software for the electric utility. I answered that question. Basically, LIPA owns the system. It farmed out the management of the system to PSEG Long Island. They claimed that the software for the communications was functioning. They claimed they had tested it. They claimed the outage management system was robust. In fact, none of the above is true, and they lied in their reports. There's a very damning report put out by consultants to LIPA about this. The Public Service Commission is outraged. There's a LIPA board meeting December 16th, which anybody can find out about on the LIPA website and view live. But it's really a scandal that the PSEG people were disorganized and deceitful.
But again, that's not the company Keith works for. So let's move on.
Yeah, I'm answering the question. I understand. You're off the hook.
Right. Ron Gomi, I just you've unmuted yourself and you can ask a question, please.
Thank you. Hey, Keith, how are you today?
Hey, Ron.
Keith, isn't National Grid trying to increase their portfolio of renewable natural gas and biofuels through, say, projects like Newtown Creek wastewater treatment and through anaerobic digestion, through dairy farms in your upstate territory? Maybe you could talk a little about Arthur Kill in Staten Island, the largest landfill that generates, renewable fuel.
Yes, Ron. Great point. So I'll talk quickly about Newtown Transfer. That's a project that we worked with New York City, and it's about to go live. We've been working on it for quite some time now, where we're going to take human waste and it's going to be converted into renewable natural gas, and it's going to power over 80 homes in the local area. And these are to your point, these are the projects. We're also in Staten Island. For the last 25 plus years, I'm going back in the old days. I actually used to go out there and take the readings in a truck. So it's a very long time ago, but we actually put gas out. We take renewable gas and we put it out into the transmission in Staten Island. And then we are also working out east in Suffolk County right now in Riverhead. We have another project going on that is also another renewable gas project. So
that's with food waste, right?
Yep, it's going to be food waste and converted into natural gas.
That's the Vigliotti project, right?
Correct. It's not completed yet, but we're in the process of working. And like you stated, upstate, we are working with dairy farmers, and everything that the company is driving is towards renewables.
So when this renewable fuel, which is non-fossil fuel, especially dairy farms, because Billy, you've probably read about at dairy farms, the cows, right? They're eating the grass and they're taking the greenhouse gas emissions out. So what happens when you look at the wells to wheels and you look at the emissions, there's actually, when that renewable fuel is burned, it has negative carbon, especially in transit buses and some of the long haul trucks. And there are studies that show that.
Yep.
And that's renewable natural gas.
Correct. We're also, like I stated before, we are working with Stony Brook with the lab out there on our transmission system, which is 350 pounds, which supplies all the gate stations and goes into power plants and all of it's the main feed of our network. We're actually working with Stony Brook right now to work on hydro blending. And that's exciting stuff because that's going to reduce gas usage in the future.
Ron, this program for the human waste conversion, is there a downside? And Billy, you might want to chime in if you think there is. But is there?
Yeah, I'm going to try and make it. I'm in the middle of a Zoom.
What's that?
Ernie, I was distracted. What was your question?
Well, Ron was talking about a human waste conversion to natural gas. Is there a downside, or do you know of one?
Oh, well, actually, that's part of the Huntington's microgrid project. They're going to be including the wastewater treatment plant and taking the methane that right now is released into the air and having that supply some of the CHIP, the combined heat and power plant that the hospital and the microgrid would be using. What we have found and what we've looked in studies is that using naturally created carbon, methane, like from cows and from wastewater treatment plants, is only effective close by. So you'd essentially have to have the cows run the farm, but it doesn't work when you start to put it in pipelines because the pipelines leak. And we also found we were running into CLCPA compliance issues with our original microgrid plan because the chip was going to be run on natural gas. And so, in fact, the whole New York State prize, which is about this funding this microgrid and designing it, has languished because they can't find a way to make these microgrids, or they're struggling to find the way of making the microgrids compliant with the requirements of the CLCPA. Our town thinks we have found a way around it, or we're expecting that within 20 years, our new chip will have to be retired and go with a newer technology. But yeah, there are issues, and it's more the piping because so much methane gets lost in the transmission. And then when the compressor stations, I think the word is fume off or flare off the gas, it's producing a lot of local pollution. So really biogas is really only used locally and very locally.
Keith, let me ask you a question about the piping. I see a lot of this yellow piping. I think it's much more superior than the old stuff that we're using as far as leaking is concerned. Is it the answer to your immediate problem of leaking methane?
You're going to be having to dig in and replace those pipes and still be putting gas in. If you're going to be digging and putting in pipes, you should be putting in a district geothermal system, which they have done studies on and found is actually cheaper. In fact, National Grid or one of their consultants, I think, came up with that if you're going to start digging and replacing pipes, put in a geothermal system, which is green. You'll do that for your existing customers, convert them over. So you won't be losing customers. You'll just be converting them over to a newer, cleaner technology.
Thank you.
We had a question from Bruce, if we're ready to move on.
Yeah, I think we are.
Okay. Bruce, if you could unmute yourself, I had muted you a few moments back. Are you hearing us, Bruce?
I got it. You hear me?
Yep.
Okay. Hi, Keith. The primary business of National Grid internationally in the U.S. seems to be transmission. Can you tell us a little bit about what National Grid's plan is for the future for its generating capacity and its real estate on Long Island?
Generating capacity, that's the electric business. That's the electric power plant. So I'd have to get back to you on that. I don't run the power plants.
If you could, I'd appreciate it. We've talked to Mr. Flannery a little bit. We'd just like to get some more information.
Sure. I can follow up. My email is keith.rooney@nationalgrid.com, and I can forward your question to Jim to get back to you.
Thank you.
You got it, sir.
Do we have any more, Frank?
Not in the chat, but I will. I think people can unmute yourself if you'd like to ask any questions.
Well, I actually have another question. I've been watching the monitoring reports of National Grid that was required as part of the agreement with Governor Cuomo to allow National Grid to keep the gas franchise on Long Island. And they are very discouraging reports. And I was wondering if Keith has any comment on it. One of the comment in the latest report that was just issued in November was that National Grid lacks a sufficiently robust compliance structure. What do you have to say about that?
Keith, you're muted. I don't know if you're having some technical issues.
I'm sorry. I don't have, I'm not at liberty to comment on that. We're still negotiating with the state as we speak, so I will not comment on anything that would impede our negotiations.
Well, actually, this is not, this was already negotiated and is required. This was
I have no comment.
negotiated back last November, that there are certain things that National Grid was supposed to do. And the report is saying, this is not something I know for myself. This is public knowledge. So you should be able to comment on it, given that this is a report reporting on the compliance with the CLCPA.
We're working closely with the monitor, and that's all I'll say. I have no other comment.
Well, I just want to take a moment to acknowledge, Keith, that you did this at the last minute for us, and I really do appreciate that. I don't know if we have any more questions, but I just wanted to point out that, you know, due to a scheduling conflict, you were willing to jump in and take these questions. And I just wanted to express our thanks from LIMBA for this unusual situation and your availability today.
Absolutely.
Yeah, no problem.
And by the way, Jay, did you have something that you had? I think you emailed me on something. Jay Ryan.
Yes, yeah, nothing pertinent to National Grid, Ernie. Did you? I mean, I don't know if this is open forum, but I don't want to go off track.
Well, I don't know. What's the question? And we'll see.
No, it had nothing to do with this topic.
Oh, okay.
Thank you, though. Thanks for offering.
All right. Peter, are you looking to say something?
All been said, thank you.
All right. Oh, all right. I want to thank everybody for participating, and I want to thank Keith again for coming in at the last moment and having a lot of good, viable information. And Billy, you had made a nice contribution, as well as Ron. I think this was a very successful meeting, and I really appreciate it. I want to thank.
Can I just say something, Billy? If you'd like to send me an email, I would gladly hook you up with Don Shapospor, who is one of our leaders in policy and clean energy, and maybe you can set up a conference call with him, because we are doing a lot of great things in the clean energy space and the compliance space. But I'd rather I could set you up with him. He's a subject matter expert. I'd be happy to do that.
That would be great. Can you put the your email in the chat? I'll take it from there.
Yes, I can.
And I also have to give you a lot of credit for showing up for someone else and having to answer questions that you might not have been prepared for.
No problem. My email is keith.rooney@nationalgrid.com. It's real simple. It's KEITH.
Hang on, I got to get a pen that works.
I'll put it in the chat. I'll put it in the
Great.
chat.
Thanks.
Thank you,
Thanks,
Ron. It's keith.rooney@nationalgrid.com. And I'd be happy to pair you up with some of our energy experts that have a conversation and address some of your issues. Very happy to do that.
And so that's an additional thank you for being transparent and available and willing to engage. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I think we're ready to wrap, are we not, Frank?
I think so too.
All right. I want to thank my co-host.
The only thing, Ernie, is we want to mention the next speaker. As we
yeah. The next speaker is Shelley LaRose, and she is the commissioner of the airport at Islip MacArthur. She's a very talented person. She comes with a lot of credentials. She formerly ran the airport at Republic, and so I think that should be a very interesting meeting. So be on board.
And one more plug, onlinetoydrive.org.
All right, thank you all.
Thanks, everybody. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
I think that worked out real well, Frank.
Yes, it did. Bye, Ernie. We'll talk soon.
Bye-bye.